Hey everybody, Creative Katie here. Today we are going to make two different tags using different techniques. The thing that's the same, we are going to use trash and things that would otherwise be thrown out or not used to make both tags. So, first up, I just recently started a new art journal and I take it off the coil. Now, this one has 60 pages, but when I recoil it, I only put about 40. That leaves some excess sheets. So, what do I do with them? I make embellishments out of them. I can fold them, cut them to different sizes, make signatures for my DIY art journals like this one. This is a 6x6 art journal, and I'll link that video in case you're interested. So none of the pages go to waste. One other thing that you can do is you can make tags. Now, these are 8x4 tags. They're a number 12 tag, but it could be a size 8 tag, a other kind of tag. So I'm just laying that out here, seeing which I can get the most of. If I put them this way, I can also get a couple ATCs. ATCs are artist trading cards, and they measure 3.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So I have a few sheets left from this art journal. I've just recoiled an art journal. There was a flip through just recently. Grab my guillotine cutter and I'm just going to cut them to size 8x4. Now, that is a standard size, but truly, if you want a tag, you can make it whatever size you want. I like having these pre-cut tags ready to go for using up the things like I'm going to show you in this video. I just keep a whole stash of them right to on my left-hand side, and away I go. So every page that I have of this art journal, I can make two tags, 8x4 tags, and two ATCs. I give it a hole punch, and then we have all these leftover bits. We are going to use them. In a recent video, I used my circle punch, and I had a bunch of circles. I made my color dice. And I just stuck some of those on this tag. So there's the first piece of trash or art supply that I've saved from the trash. The next is the paint. I had some leftover paint here. This is a Naples yellow, I believe, or it could be unbleached titanium. Then I have some quinacridone magenta. I'm thinking I'm going to make some marks here. Didn't like that. So I'm just scraping this on with a key card. Another thing that we're saving from the recycle bin. Key card, old credit card, old gift card. I'm just scraping it on. I have no idea where this is going. I'm just using up what is left over. I have some cadmium yellow there, and I just thought, oh, I'm going to brighten this up. Once that's dry, I'm going to use this lovely mark maker. This is the bottom of a produce container, and it is double-sided. I absolutely love this. I brayer on paint. In this case, it's the quinacridone magenta, and use it like a stamp. It doesn't get better than this. Look at that addition. So I'm cleaning off the quinacridone magenta, and then I'm going to add some white. I'm thinking white will give contrast to this tag. Fine, brayering it on works really, really well. And stamping, giving it a good press, and there we go. Look at the texture and the interest in this background that was created by leftover paint that would otherwise just dry up on your palette. So now I am going to stamp with this script stamp, and I'm going to use my archival ink. Now, a script stamp, it's not trash, but it is one of my most valued art tools. I use it a lot. So if you don't have some script stamp or text stamp in your stash, that is something you would be well advised to buy. I want to bring out those circles, so I'm taking some white paint, my angle brush, and I'm just painting them white so that they show up. Bring them to the forefront. There's texture there, but I want to actually see the circles and have it as part of maybe my focal image or to set off my focal image. Now I'm not getting great coverage here, so I do dry and then apply a second and maybe a third coat in some cases. I think maybe I'm using gesso. I may have had better luck, easier coverage with my white acrylic paint. So now, anytime that I cut out an embellishment or I have excess, I cut it out, and these all go into a bin that is to my left, and I just go through that and I find some focal images. When I am creating, I might stamp out 3 of the crazy birds. That means they're ready to go, perfect for a tag or an ATC. So here I'm simply auditioning the various elements. Got some of these butterflies. I could cut them out. They're perfect. They'd look good on here. But as soon as I put this yellow sunflower on, it just made the background come to life. So I thought maybe I could put the crazy bird with these. And then, oh, I have a red circle here as well. Maybe I could use that with the yellow, bring out both of the colors that are in the background. But all these things are in my studio. So I need to use them. I have this other sunflower. I kind of like it. Maybe I'll make it a hairdo for him, or could be an umbrella. So I'm just going to quickly cut this out. This sunflower comes from a napkin. I use parts of that napkin and I save the rest. So again, something that would otherwise be just tossed away or forgotten is being used. Now I'm just going to put some fluid matte medium underneath and glue both elements of my combined collage focal image. This comes from my short and sweet sentiment pack. I love the ones that are white print with a dark background. And then I'm shading around the outside with black acrylic paint and my angle brush. And then I continue to shade around the flower and the focal image. That just makes it stand out a little bit more from the background. If you haven't tried scraping paint with a key card, I suggest that you do. It's a great way to apply leftover paint because usually you've already created and you're tired and you want to clean up your studio and exit. So it's a very quick way of doing it. It also dries really, really quickly. So I'm just shading around those circles, and those circles are definitely getting a little bit wonky, a little less round and precise, but embrace the imperfections. Grab my fine line applicator bottle and just kind of make some sketchy lines around it. If it's not going to look perfect, then don't even try. I didn't like that circle there, so I'm just painting it the quinacridone magenta and the Naples yellow. There we go. I thought I was done at this stage, but as often is the case, you think about it. So I had this punched out, so I'm using it as a stencil, and I'm using this stamp with little water drops, I think, on it. Now, this stamp I've had in my stash almost since the beginning of when I started creating, and I haven't used it. So I challenge you to go and find something that you haven't used and start using it. Otherwise, it is trash. And a good splatter of gold paint will finish off this tag. So much interest in that background. And then I'll do another one on the back, and then I put it on these binder rings and keep the tags like that. You could put them adhere, leave them one-sided, and then glue them on to an art journal page. Use them as the focal image. Remember these? This kind of came from the pages from my art journal, and I am going to glue them on. Now, I heard that you could use gesso to glue it down instead of using matte medium. So I thought I would give that a try. try to save myself some time here instead of gluing it down with matte medium. So I am just putting these on, no rhyme or reason, really. I just want to add the design element of the squares, the rectangles, and the texture that it's going to give my project. So doing something like this, using those pieces on a tag, lets you experiment without a whole lot of risk. It's a small surface. So I always find small surfaces work best when you are trying a new technique. Now, the gesso really didn't keep. Maybe I didn't put enough, so I ended up going back in and gluing it down with the fluid matte medium. Remember this stamp with the water drop? I'm going to use it, but this time I'm not using my archival ink. I'm going to use black acrylic paint that I'm going to brayer it on. And the reason for that is I want it darker. I want it more present. I want it to show through the color and maybe add a little bit of texture. So when that's the case, I use the black acrylic paint. Now I'm trying to mostly stay in the open spaces, not stamping over top of the textured part. I really don't know why I haven't used this stamp for years. I am loving it. So here is something, a supply that I have rarely used. I bought these distress crayons. I only have about 12 of them, but I don't use them often. Mostly, I think, because I do 8 by 10, 7 by 10, 9 by 12 art journal pages, and it's a lot to activate them. But on a tag or an ATC, they are a perfect thing. So I just have the blue and the green, and I'm just scribbling it on, literally just scribbling it on, and then rubbing it with my finger to blend them together. Now you could use Inktense blocks, Inktense pencils, watercolors, acrylic paints. Just pick a blue and a green that you like. If I was using acrylic paints, I would use Prussian blue and Hooker's green and mix them. And I'm just blending it with my finger. And if I need a little help, I can just add a little bit of water on my finger. But I'm loving how this is bringing out the texture, that little square motif in there. It's very soft. It's just, oh, yum is all I can say. It is absolutely gorgeous. From supplies that I haven't used and bits from the coils. That was Lucky Clover and Chip Sapphire, if you were wondering what colors distress it was. So this owl comes from a little mini book that I got at the Dollar Tree. I bought it for a project, Woodland Animals, for a baby's room that I did, a few extra. So I am going to use them. I'm going to add some marks. Now these are just lids, things that I've saved that have squares or circles of different sizes that I can use as a mark maker. So I'm going to use that small one. I'm just going to dip it in white acrylic paint and stamp. So you don't need expensive supplies. Yes, there's some core supplies that you need. I'm recommending a script stamp. I'm recommending some other stamps. But you can use mark makers and things that you are just grabbing out of the recycling bin. This is adding a lot of contrast to the page. It's brightening the page, adding that another element to it. Always try to put some off the page. I like the way that looks. Give it a good heat or dry with the heat tool. And now we're ready to glue down the focal image. Now, I use distress crayons. And if I was to put water on that and rub, it will reactivate. So I need to be very gentle here. So I'm just kind of more dabbing it on underneath. Now I could also put the gel medium or fluid medium on the back of the focal image so I don't activate it. It's activating it a little bit, so I'm going to make sure I clean my brush before I go on top of this owl because I don't want him to be blue and green. So when you use like watercolors or things that are not permanent, you need to remember that and just treat it differently. And then I'm putting a good coat of fluid matte medium after I clean my brush to glue it down. I grabbed a sentiment. I've got a stack of sentiments there. I don't even know which sentiment pack of mine this came from, if it came from one at all. May have just been a one and done kind of thing. But I had it in a different font and I didn't use it. So again, don't throw them out, but do make an effort to make sure you use what you are saving. Because if you're not using it, it is trash that you're just storing. I grab my Inktense blocks and I'm just selecting colors that work and I'm just tweaking the colors of the owl. I want to brighten him up, make him a little bit more bold, just so he stands out from the background. So I'm just mixing up a gray with white and just intensifying the colors. After all, the focal image you want to be front and center. I really love this background and we'll have to do something again. I've got more of that coiled paper for when I take out those excess papers. Just adding some white to brighten it up, adding highlights. I think I'm using gesso here. And I want to bring out the pin for the feathers. Just keep going till I get that color, whatever I want, till I like it. Now you can use acrylic paints to overpaint. You can use Inktense blocks, watercolor. I think I improved him. So now I'm going to grab my charcoal pencil and I'm going to shade around the edge. Why am I not using my shading technique? Because that shading technique uses water and that may reactivate, smudge my beautiful background. So I am going with a dry medium here and getting that effect. I'm not willing to risk having it reactivate. Grab my Posca pen. I'm just going to outline my sentiments here, make it a little bolder. And do some line work around the outside. Don't try to make it straight and you won't be disappointed. And there we have the second tag finished. I've got close-ups of both tags I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you give it a try.